Indeed, a nation's level of development is measured by the yardstick of its transport network efficiency. In fact, a nation can be said to be as developed as her transport sector, which is a basic sector to all other sectors of an economy. The connectivity provided by international air transport facilitates the fast-growing global tourism industry. It is estimated that over half of international tourists travel to their destinations by air. Tourism makes a major contribution to the global economy. It directly contributed $2.2 trillion to world gross domestic product, almost 10% of the global economy in 2015, and provided over 108 million jobs globally. By 2024, the World Travel and Tourism Council expects direct employment in the tourism industry to be more than 120 million people globally. When looking at the jobs and GDP suggested through the indirect and induced impact of tourism, the figures are significantly higher at 285 million jobs, that's 8.7% of employment, and $7.2 trillion, or 9.8% of the global economy. By the year 2026, tourism could support some 370 million jobs and 11 trillion in gross domestic product globally. Welcome to the second edition of Airline Development in Nigeria and Impact on Tourism on Chante Afrique, Tourism Without Boundaries. Tourism and air transport industry complement each other. Tourism depends on transportation to bring visitors, while the transportation industry depends on tourism to generate demand for its services. The growth in the tourism industry directly reflects on route development, expansion, and connectivity in air transport, be it local or domestic, regional or international. Over the last 25 to 30 years or so, available statistics have shown that the number of international tourists have geometrically increased. The expansion of international tourism has a large and direct impact on the discipline of transport geography and a direct relationship with route network expansion. Transport mode availability is actually the cause and effect of the growth of tourism. And to start with, the improved facilities that have stimulated tourism and the expansion of tourism has stimulated transport. Accessibility is the main function behind the basis of tourism and transport. In order to assess the areas that are mainly aimed at, tourists will use any available applicable transport mode. However, air transport is the main mode for international tourism. Air transport plays a dominant role in interregional movement of tourists, which normally entails travel over long distances. Growth rates of international air traffic are pegged with growth rates of international tourism. Attractive package tours, competitive airfares attract more and more tourists day by day. Therefore, both industries are expanding rapidly. Transport policies and decisions of governments can make a big difference in the destinations available to tourists. For instance, the recent reduction in aviation fuel costs in Ghana by 20% led to a considerable surge in aviation activity in Kotoko International Airport, and attendant consequences a larger influx of visitors, most of them tourists. Air transport is far more advanced than the other transport modes and air transport has revolutionized the geographical aspect of distances. The most remote areas can now be accessed. Any journey around the world can be measured in terms of hours of traveling, with jet propulsion provided by jet aircrafts that can reach up to 2,000 kilometers per hour. International tourism is no longer a risky, indeterminate adventure. As I said earlier, millions of jobs worldwide are being created in the tourism industry every day, directly supported and funded by the spending of foreign visitors arriving by air. Taking into account both the overseas visitors and workforce employed, it can be said that the industry is a giant that is still growing. Arguably, one of the world's largest industries is really actually travel and tourism. The role of international airlines in the total tourism business is to provide mass and quick transportation between countries under safe, standardized, and economic conditions. In relationship to the tourism industry, this is better understood by breaking down the entire activity of tourism into its component parts. Because of quick and efficient transportation, people are spurred to travel for various reasons as destinations have become much more accessible. Some of these reasons to travel are sightseeing, historical, cultural, social, and technological sites are available all over the world for tourists to see. Relaxation, beaches, resorts, mountain resorts, fantastic hotels all over the world, lovely islands to visit, places to relax. For sport, mountain climbing, skiing, surfing, scuba diving, even athletics. People travel to different parts of the world to watch football and all other forms of sports. Special interest driven tourism. These are tourists that go to places to look at art, to study history, religion, culture, and of course, science. Shopping. Shopping is a good reason for some aspect of tourism, for personal and professional business. And then governmental tourism, political, cultural, social, and scientific reasons can drive people both in government and who intend to get into government to go on some form of tourism to one place or the other, either domestically, regionally, internationally. The travel industry requires an efficient infrastructure which put together constitutes the tourism industry, which is the world's second largest industry. The infrastructure is thus each country has a point of prestige and its national carrier, or for that matter, flag carrier. To name a few, there are Lufthansa of Western Germany, British Airways of United, Air France for France. Unfortunately, Nigeria Airways is no longer there. Now, in order that these carriers can fly to all over other countries to reach their destinations, government negotiate with each other to grant them certain freedoms of the air. This is another aspect for our discussion in the air transport development and its impact on tourism in Nigeria. Keep watching. This is Chante Afrique, Tourism Without Boundaries. Aviation plays a central role in supporting tourism. Over 54% of international tourists now travel by air, and tourism is particularly important in developing countries where it is a key part of economic development strategy. In Africa particularly, an estimated 5.8 to 6 million people are employed in areas supported by the steady influx of overseas visitors, most of whom arrive in the region by air, and contributed 46 billion to the gross domestic product in African economies in 2014 alone. In some Caribbean countries, tourism provides one of the few means of economic growth. The contribution of air transport to tourism employment and GDP can be summarized as follows. Direct: 15.9 million direct jobs in tourism globally are estimated to be supported by the spending of foreign visitors arriving by air. This includes jobs in industries such as hotels, restaurants, visitor attractions, local transport, and car rentals, but it excludes air transport industry jobs. Indirect: a further 13.4 million indirect jobs in industries supplying the tourism industry are supported by visitors arriving by air. Induced: these direct and indirect tourism jobs supported by air transport generate a further 7 million jobs in other parts of the economy through employees spending their earnings on other goods and services. Including direct, indirect, and induced effects, air transport supports 36 million jobs within tourism, contributing about $892 billion a year to world gross domestic product. Tourism, as a service industry supported by aviation, can play a role in supporting sustainable economic growth. When developed in a responsible and strategic way, tourism can provide important service sector jobs while preserving and indeed celebrating natural resources rather than depleting them. However, there needs to be a focus by both tourism operators and government to ensure that planned growth is done with sufficient regard to the environment and social conditions as well as the economic benefits it can bring. That's why we always talk about green tourism or ecotourism, responsible tourism. There are great examples of economies taking a proactive strategic view of the development of tourism as a key national sector, doing so in an holistic and sustainable manner. New Zealand, Costa Rica, Iceland, Bhutan are examples of countries that have taken this opportunity in an enthusiastic way. The World Travel and Tourism Council sets out some of the key aspects of responsible tourism for tomorrow, which, while growing, impacts natural and cultural environments in a positive way, provides benefits to all sectors of society, including young people, women, and indigenous peoples, attracts and develops a skilled workforce to support growing demand, stimulates consumer demand for sustainable products, uses latest technology to find innovative solutions to future challenges. How to harness the benefits of a growing tourism sector. There are some things governments can do relatively easily to boost their national tourism sectors. While many governments spend lots of money promoting their countries as destinations, a number complicate visits by instituting lengthy visa processes, placing high taxes on arriving or departing tourists, or not engaging in joining up thinking. At a regional level, there are signs of improvement in these areas, with some regional groups like APEC and ASEAN discussing ways they can make travel to and within their regions simpler. Europe, with a single Schengen visa, is a good example of regional thinking, but the United Kingdom government is missing out on tourists, as those applying for a Schengen visa have to apply for a UK visa separately. Opening up air markets, allowing airlines to start services without having to go through lengthy government to government negotiations for every new route or airline, has proved to be a real driver of travel, tourism, and the economic benefits that can bring. Finally, states should ensure that they regularly review the capacity of their airport and air traffic infrastructure versus projected demand. This will ensure that aviation will continue to support tourism development and deliver wider economic benefits. Pay attention as we go on the impact of aviation on tourism development in Nigeria. This is Chante Afrique, Tourism Without Boundaries. According to the Oxford Economics publication titled Economic Benefits from Air Transport in Nigeria, published in 2012, the facts and figures go like this. Nigerian aviation's economic benefits. Air transport, to, from, and within Nigeria creates three distinct types of economic benefit. Typically, studies such as this focus on the economic footprint of the industry, measured by its contribution to gross domestic product, jobs and tax revenues generated by the sector and its supply chain. But the economic value created by the industry is more than that. Principal benefits are created for the customer, the passenger or shipper using the air transport service. Tourists are part of the passengers. In addition, the connections created between cities and markets represent an important infrastructure asset that generates benefits through enabling foreign direct investment, business clusters, specialization, and the spillover impact on economic productive capacity, of which tourism is a major part. Aviation's economic footprint and contribution to Nigerian gross domestic product. The aviation sector contributed 109 billion, 0.4% to Nigeria's GDP, and the total comprised 59 billion naira directly contributed through the output of the aviation sector, airlines, airports, and ground services, 34 billion naira indirectly contributed through the aviation sector supply chain, 27 billion naira contributed through the spending by the employees of the aviation sector and its supply chain. In addition, there are 78 billion in catalytic benefits through tourism, which raises the overall contribution to 198 billion or 0.6% of the gross domestic product. This is as far back as 2012. Major employer. The aviation sector supports 159,000 jobs in Nigeria. This total comprises 44,000 jobs directly supported by the aviation sector, 64,000 jobs directly supported by the aviation sector supply chain, and 51,000 jobs supported through the spending by the employees of the aviation sector and its supply chain. In addition, there are a further 130,000 people employed through the catalytic tourism effects of aviation, high productivity jobs. The average air transport services employee generates 3.5 million in gross value added GVA annually, which is nearly 7 times more productive than the average in Nigeria. Contribution to public finances. The aviation sector pays over 8.5 billion in tax, including income tax receipts from employees, social security contributions, and corporation tax levied on profits, with a further 17.0 billion of revenue coming from VAT, value-added tax on domestic and international flights originating in Nigeria. It is estimated that an additional 8.9 billion of government revenue is raised via the aviation sector supply chain and another 7.1 billion through taxation of the activities supported by the spending of employees of both the aviation sector and its supply chain. Consumer benefits for passengers, inclusive of tourists and shippers. From visiting family and friends to shipping high value products, 8.3 million passengers and 181,000 tons of freight travel to and from Nigeria, to, from, and within Nigeria. More than 15,200 scheduled international flights depart Nigeria annually. I'm sure it's more now, destined for 32 airports in 30 countries. Domestically, more than 66,800 flights make over 7.5 million seats available to passengers destined to 18 airports. Dear viewers, thank you very much for your attention as we go through the second episode dealing with airline development in Nigeria and its impact on tourism. In the next episode, we will be concluding the series. We will look at problems of the aviation industry in Nigeria and make some recommendations on how best to move forward in a more resourceful manner. Do keep a date with us, same time next week on Chante Afrique, Tourism Without Boundaries.